From the melting mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, hanging out at SOR headquarters as I sit down on the captain's chair to speak to all of you tonight. We welcome you to tonight's show, including Revolution Radio. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and doing a little shopping at the SOR Vault. Don't forget to read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by donating to Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Hey, before I introduce our guests, I got a special audience member I want to speak to. Now, one of our longtime listeners, Fap, he hangs out Friday, Saturday nights with his grandma, Rose. So we want to give a shout-out to Grandma Rose tonight. I believe she's 94 years old. I'm going to give her the record for our oldest listener right now. But I want to thank you, Rose, for tuning on in and letting us get weird with you on your special Friday night. So thank you so much for joining us. Paul and Ben Eno are world-famous father and son paranormal adventurers, broadcasters, authors, lecturers, and beard connoisseurs who have a combined experience of nearly 65 years in the field of the unexplained. Between the two of them, they have investigated hundreds of cases around the world. They've lectured all over the United States, across Europe. Their Sunday radio show called Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno is into its 12th year. These guys are everywhere. Everywhere. You can check out their website, behindtheparanormal.com. Highly suggest you do. Paul and Ben Eno, good to have you on Spaced Out Radio tonight to close off the week that was. How you guys doing?
Well, it was quite a week, and it was great to be with you, Dave.
Yeah, it's a welcome distraction from the world around us.
Isn't it? We all need that distraction. You know, at the beginning of this week, I actually had a talk with my business managers about this and the people kind of behind the scenes. And we all had this long conversation that we were going to, you know, our job is to bring the woo. Our job is to bring the stories. People are getting inundated with the fear and everything throughout the media, what's going on in the world. We need to be able to bring that roundabout, and the woo is the most important part right now for us. And, you know, I know you guys are full of woo. You've been chasing it for a long, long time. Is the drive still there after so long, Paul?
Well, better the woo than the woe, I suppose. But, yeah, it is. This is my 50th year. I kind of mark it from October. And it is. I mean, the more you look for, the more you find, the more you experience, the more wondrous it becomes, which is why I don't understand the politics in this field. I wonder if people are really experiencing it in the proper way. But for me, the drive is just getting bigger.
Why is that? Well, you brought up a very key word there, politics in this field. After as long as you have been researching this and have taken this subject extremely seriously, is it more political now than it's ever been, or was it political back then? It's just shifted now because of social media.
Well, I think you just said it, Dave. Back then, who did you have? You had the Warrens, Hans Holzer, maybe Brad Steiger, one or two others. And me, because like nobody knew me. I was in my 20s or before.
Right.
But I think that nobody was doing it. I mean, the fewer people you have, the less the politics, I guess. But now, and nobody wanted to talk about that. But they wanted to hear about it, and they would talk about it privately. But nobody wanted to be on TV. They didn't want to be laughed at. Now it's just the opposite. Everybody wants a TV show. And Ben and I run into people very often who will contact us, and you just know they want a book deal, they want a movie, or they want to be on TV. And we say, none of that. We're here to help people. We don't care about our own fame, if there is any. And we just, there's a lot of politics now. There's a joke that Americans, if they were marooned on a desert island, the first thing they would do would be elect a committee, elect a committee chair, and then draft a constitution. Well, I mean, that can be good, that can be bad. Today, it's like you have the various ghost hunting groups on every street corner, and you have the first deputy assistant honcho, the chief investigator, and very often, with all due respect to those to whom this does not apply, most of them have read a few books. They have no idea what they're doing. And it's not only a lot of politics, but it's bringing, I think, a lot of disservice to the field. Again, with some notable exceptions. So I think it's very different now.
Yeah. What do you think, Ben? What's your thoughts? I mean, coming from that generation now where everybody around our age, a few years up, a few years down, are, really pushing hard for the social media point, to the quick fame and fortune point, because maybe that's what they want to do with their life.
Well, when I was in college, I had the interesting pleasure of going to Emerson College in Boston, and I remember when I was there was a lot of talk about having your brand, building your brand, your own personal brand. And, that is a really interesting concept, right? It's this sort of abstract version of yourself that you kind of present to the world. And, in building your brand becomes something outside of yourself. And in that way, you create this sort of persona of being the Bigfoot guy, the ghost guy, the something, and it also becomes very, very consuming. And there's a lot of pride and ego that goes into it. And it's in building that brand, which, you can get a lot of success out of it, sure, but for actual, research and whatnot, it's not really fruitful, right? It's not really something that's, good for the study or research of the field as a whole. I had a conversation really recently with a friend of mine, and he was like, "Oh, have you investigated this place, this place, this place? This place is really haunted." And I was like, "No." He was like, "Well, where do you go?" And I was like, "Oh, well, we usually, if we get called anywhere, it's typically after we vet the person, make sure they're not clinically insane, make sure they're not on drugs, and we do our best to help the people in the situation, because it's more about helping the people rather than the phenomena." And the way he sort of went about the subject was, it sounded more like bird watching than it sounded like serious research. Like, oh, we're going to go to this specific nature reserve, we can find a yellow fin or a golden finch here at this specific place. Oh, we're going to go to this haunted, asylum, and we're going to find this very specific white lady that appears every so often. It's you wonder where the research comes in, and you wonder if it's actually research at all and more of just a hobby, which, if it's just a hobby, it's, what's the point of doing it anyway, right? There are plenty of people who do serious research that, it is technically a hobby. I guess you could call it that for us. But at the same time, we care about where it goes. We care about the people that it involves. And that's just, kind of a little summary of my thoughts on the whole thing.
My big thought on it at all, and I'm curious your opinion on it, because, we're not going to waste a lot of time tonight because we only have Ben for the first hour here. But my thoughts on the entire paranormal paradigm out there are the fact that I don't think most researchers have a clue on what they're looking for. And I don't even mean that, it may sound disrespectful when I say that, but there are very few out there that are outside of what I like to call the weekend warrior mode, where they have no idea what they should even be looking for, let alone going out and going into people's homes and playing ghost hunter. I think it's a little bit of a crossroads right now because of things like television and the way this has all been brought up the last few years, where anybody can do it, and that's the perception. Paul, what's your thoughts?
Well, some years ago, I was invited to go to Florida to speak at a conference for beginning ghost hunters. I must say it was against my better judgment. But they were it was at a nice, supposedly haunted hotel in Clearwater, that big wooden place, the Biltmore. I don't know what it is now. But I was speaking to the group, and somebody said, "Mr. Eno, if you had one word to say or one thing to say to the group about this of advice for this pursuit, what would it be?" And I said, "Don't. And 230
Good.
people stared at me. They said, "You have no idea what you're doing. Most of you are stuck in the 19th century, which we believe is all wrong. You don't know what spiritually, psychologically, even physically it can do to you. I mean, I've been physically injured, and it's just. But I said, well, here we all are, so we might as well, talk about it. So I made this presentation, and this. I don't know. I'm just not very pleased with the. So I think it's one thing if the paranormal comes in and bites you in the butt. You happen to move into a place that's got a parasite infestation or otherwise quote unquote haunted, and it comes to you. But to go out and seek it, I would suggest taking up soccer first, or read some books.
Yeah.
Although a lot of the books out there I wouldn't use as doorstops. So it's a real problem. I think that this field, if it's going to be taken seriously ever, needs to be torn down to the roots and rebuilt.
I would agree with you on that. And, we have stated so many times, it doesn't matter what field it is, Paul, and I'm sorry, Ben, I'm going to stick with Paul here for a quick second. It doesn't matter what field it is, whether it's UFOs, whether it's cryptids like Sasquatch, whatever it may be. What we're seeing a lot of these days is we're seeing a lot of research conducted on opinion, and we're not seeing research for the betterment of the community. Has it always been that way, or is this a new phenomena as this subject matter continues to grow in popularity?
Well, I think there have always been the people who try to be of service. We know a lot of them, and there are always the people who are trying to make a living. But when I worked with Ed and Lorraine Warren, they made a living at this. And I kind of learned, as much as I like them personally, I kind of learned to distrust that because it means you have a vested interest in things being weird. I think it can be a problem when it comes to objectivity. So for me, the paranormal is something that grew out of my personal spirituality.
Yes.
It goes into, it goes deeply into what we are, what we're for, what our destiny is. And I think it's that deep or way deeper. It's not just about, can you get a couple of EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, all that sort of thing. And starting out when the greatest technology we had was an Instamatic camera and, maybe a reel-to-reel or cassette tape recorder. I don't know. It's really different and I don't think better today.
Ben, when you look at the way technology has really shifted the paranormal phenomena, growing up in a household like you did, where Dad has been involved with this for, about 40 years, 45 years, do you look at the technological phenomena in the paranormal field as we're trying to prove everything with the technology that's out there as a benefit or a curse to this field?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I'm gonna say I think the problem isn't the technology. I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is what's being tried, what's being proven, right? So what are we trying to prove? I think that's more the question that should be asked, which is, are we trying to prove to a materialistic science that a spiritual world exists? If that's the case, why do spiritual things do physical things, right? So one of my favorite things to poke holes in is, you've probably heard of, ghost hunters and whatnot throwing down flour and seeing if footprints appear. That's like, one of the weird paradoxes, which is, if it's a ghost, which inherently implies that, is it a spirit? Then why would a spirit have footprints, right? That's kind of the first question that comes to mind. Why are ghosts wearing clothes? Why do ghosts even have forms at all? What's the point of a spirit doing physical things? And I think the problem isn't so much the technology. In fact, I think that it's being used incorrectly. I think there's too much of a reliance on it. I think it has its place for sure. But I think that we need to rethink who we're proving this to and how we're trying to prove it. Because I don't think, you're going to walk into, like Cornell and say, all right, I have definitive proof that, metaphysics is a real thing. I have definitive proof that there's an afterlife, because you're not going to get that, nor would anybody believe you. The problem is that science isn't ready to handle explanations. I think physics is getting there. I think physics is probably the closest thing we're going to get to being able to prove that, there's something beyond the reality that's around us. And ultimately it's sort of the question that's the driving one, which is, what is it exactly are we trying to prove? And are the
Right.
assumptions that we have actually true? Because we don't know. And, my dad and I are the first to admit we don't know if we're right. We have a vague idea, we have experiences, but, we don't know. And, if somebody comes along and has something that proves us wrong, then there we go. But the problem is that, there's no openness in the ghost field in and of itself. There's a lot of, very much, 19th century spooky, scary skeletons that are trying to be proven. And it's like, you can't do that because, it's just such a Cartesian dualist perspective of, well, there's matter and there's spirit and that's it. It's just philosophically wrong. And you're not going to get anywhere trying to throw, videos in somebody's face. You know what I'm saying?
No, I get that, and I can appreciate that, Ben. And with that, is it the people who are getting involved? And I don't want to slag people because everybody is allowed to have a hobby. Everybody is allowed to investigate this. There are no rules or rule books saying who can and cannot do this. However, that being said, when we look at the way that there, to take that same ilk where there is no rules, there is no guidelines, controlling this field in any way, whether that's good, bad, or indifferent, is it the people then that are really setting this entire field up for success or failure?
Well, I think, a lot of it is kind of, every major field has kind of their standouts, their heroes, their mavericks that are able to drive research, right? So, I mean, you have Stanton Friedman, one of the greats in ufology.
Yes.
And other great figures along with him. And we have some interesting sort of people in our realm, but I think the problem is in the modern and Western world, we tend to kind of break things up and separate it so that it's easier to understand. There's a lot of pigeonholing and whatnot. And I think that, maybe it is that people shouldn't be doing it. I'm not going to tell someone they can't, but just because someone can do it, I don't think that means that they necessarily should do it because it's dangerous, right? You can give someone a gun and send them into combat, but if they're not trained, like, they're going to get hurt. That's just how it is. And, not to say that I was indoctrinated by my father, essentially, but, I'd like to think that he gave me the tools to be able to, investigate things with an open mind and with a perspective that allows me to be insightful on the subject. And, I think that if you're studying this field, you should at least be trained in some sort of philosophy, understanding metaphysics in some way, shape, or form, or at least be able to, sort of discern things that are around you, right? Just because something is telling you it's great Aunt Gertrude doesn't necessarily mean that it's great Aunt Gertrude. There's a lot of, snares and traps and pitfalls that exist in the process in and of itself. Like maybe it could be a hobby for people. That's cool, great. But, I just advise, tremendous amounts of caution because it can be very dangerous to people. And it can, be very treacherous in a way. And I think that, in all fields of all of them in the sort of paranormal realm, the ghost one is sort of the one that's most inundated by people who are kind of like, paranormal tourists in a way. You don't necessarily have, every Tom, Dick, and Harry running out into the woods trying to find Bigfoot or, going to their local nature reserve and trying to find Bigfoot there. And same with UFOs, right? Like MUFON has an incredibly intense process of vetting their members. And, the process of becoming an investigator is just so rigorous. I think it was Mike Panicello, who's the head of Connecticut MUFON down here in the United States. He did a presentation on like the investigative methods of MUFON, and I sat there for this 2-hour presentation, and it was the most interesting sort of look into how MUFON works, and it is so complex. I'm amazed at the discipline that's there, and I wonder why don't we have that in the ghost field? Why don't we have that sort of that structure, that discipline that exists in other fields of science? Or and I think the problem is that it's people just aren't trained to do it, and I think having some sort of basic background, although it can influence your biases, your assumptions, and whatnot, being able to have a structure that's there to address a situation, not just running in cameras, cameras on, screams, ready to go. It's like you're there and you have a structure, you have a plan, you know how you're going to move forward, you know how you're going to talk to the person that's affected, and how what's you have a vague idea of what's going to happen, and I think that's what's missing mostly from our field is A, the structure, and B, what it is we're actually looking for. Because if you ask anybody else in the field, they'll probably give you an answer along the lines of, well, I just want to prove that it exists. And it's like, well, what are we trying to prove? And I think that's the major question.
And that is a big question, as we only got about a minute here. Has paranormal television and tourism been a hindrance or a help, Paul?
Well, in that it attracts people to the field in many cases, I think it's a disaster. He said, it's just now. In fairness, I know there's only a few seconds, but in fairness to the good people out there, we received a lot of communications at the show, and several of which have said that why are you running down ghost hunters? A lot of us are using your theories and methods and getting some interesting results. So, I mean, not that it's any smarter to use our theories and methods, but I mean, I think that there are people out there who are really who try to bring some discipline to the field. Maybe they're wasting their time, I don't know. But the disciplined thinking of science, as Ben suggests, is just not present in most cases.
Well, and that's why I always say what we are doing in this realm for a lot of us is we are conducting opinion. We are not conducting anything scientific. We may be trying to use scientific method, but in most cases, I think we are failing miserably on that. Not to sound negative or downtrodden, but there is a reality to that. What is safe? What is not? Paul and Ben Eno are here tonight on Spaced Out Radio. They've got a long-serving podcast called Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. It's on Sundays. BehindTheParanormal.com is the website. We're going to get into more of Paranormal Talk with Paul and Ben right after this.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know little brother is watching.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Need that weekend supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
We're underway in the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us. Want to remind all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. We are talking with Paul and Ben Eno tonight. They have a long-time radio show called Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. Runs on their website, behindtheparanormal.com. I highly suggest you check it on out because these guys are pretty smart. Great beards, think alike, and that's what we're doing here tonight as we talk everything paranormal. Gentlemen, welcome back.
Thanks.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks.
Hey, Ben, I got to ask you, since you do a lot of this with your father, what is your first encounter that you remember that you had, the first experience you had with Dad out on some paranormal investigation?
I was 7 or 8 years old. My dad decided to take myself and 2 of the neighbor kids to this herb farm where they were having sort of issues with fairies, I believe. Was that it, Dad? I can't remember.
Pretty much name it. UFOs and actually, it wasn't UFO. You told me on the way down at your tender age that we were going to run into UFOs, and I was a little skeptical. But you were the pioneer of the flap area idea.
To be fair, I could have just guessed, but
yeah. Well, there were ghosts and mysterious people and fairy-like creatures. Yeah.
But I do recall there was sort of this silo area that they had. They referred to it as an energy well, and in said energy well, you could like stand and you sort of felt like this sort of surge of like, sort of tingles and like static electricity. I remember feeling like kind of faint, but I remember being there and I thought it was like such an interesting place, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And like I didn't feel scared, I was just like kind of taking it all in, and just kind of experiencing the moment, as a little kid does. And that's really my first sort of experience. Nothing too crazy, just existing in a paranormal space.
Paul, do you remember your first hanging out with your boy out on a case? Was it something as a father? Were you concerned at all about bringing him out, or were you more just like, hey, let's see what happens?
Well, no, I would never take my son to a see what happens situation. I had a lot of confidence in him. The first 2 cases were in 2005, and they were both in August. And one was the haunted policeman of Vermont, as we said, and the beginning of what was a case we're still working on to this day, the Litchfield Triangle, which started with a house in Torrington, Connecticut. And the woman had read my book, Footsteps in the Attic, and said this, this multiple worlds idea is the only thing that really explains all the goofiness that's going on in this house. So Ben came with me on that case, and it was funny because we had our first video camera, complete with a film cartridge, tape cartridge, I should say, and guys don't read directions, Dave, and so we're on the way over there, and we learned how to use it on the way. It's a couple of hour drive, and we got there, and the things usually in a house, you go in, and I guess kind of has to get used to you being part of the chemistry. But not this place. we were sitting at the kitchen table, and you could feel people moving around in the room. Now, as it turned out, the house was built in 1793, and it started out as a general store, but then it became a house, and the same family still lived in the house after 6 generations. So apparently they still lived in the house after 6 generations, so to speak. We heard stories such as the family was sitting in the living room, and all of a sudden they saw these legs hanging from the ceiling, walking as if on a surface that didn't exist in our world. I went outside at one point, and this is within an hour when we got there, and I heard a horse galloping, and it went right by me. I couldn't see it, to the point where it was stirring up the air, down the driveway, across the road, very rural area. There wasn't any traffic. And the leaves on the trees were stirring in this, whatever was making this breeze. One of the more interesting some of the more interesting evidence we encountered was on a subsequent trip. This is 5 years later. We were up. There was a film crew up from New York. I mean, we're often approached by producers who want to do series, and of course, the guests of the network, and especially about this area, something always comes in, a third party, and stomps on it. Plus, they say we get along too well. They don't like the harmony we have, and they don't. A lot of them don't like the theories. But Ben and I were outside, very, very cold, November of 2010. And the little 4-year-old boy in the house, the grandson of the owner, said that his invisible friend Ashwar was in the tree outside the house because her people lived in trees. 4-year-old kid. So we went out and we pointed our very, budget style infrared camera up into the tree. And sure enough, when it came out, you could see this whitish tadpole-like thing coming down out of the tree, and then in the final frame is just a flash and it disappears. Now, if people want to see that video, they can go to the Facebook page of our show, Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno, and it's the first video, and about 6 seconds in, you can actually see this, and it's been published in a few books. So, and of course, there were lots and lots of things about that case. So I don't want to take away Ben's time because he's only with us for another 15 minutes. We can talk about it later. But he was poised. He was not afraid. He was insightful. And I said, this is really going to work. So I was very proud of him. In the Vermont case, we got out of the car, and his brother came with us. His brother has never really liked this kind of thing. But Ben and I got out of the car. We were immediately, didn't say a word, immediately drawn to a corner of this property where there's a tree. And we looked at each other, and there was something going on in our interpretation in a parallel reality that a parasite was feeding on. And when it couldn't get enough to eat, it would go into the basement where the police officer lived and pick on him and his girlfriend. And the parents lived upstairs. So Ben was right in there from day one.
When you say parasite, what do you mean by that?
Well, folklore calls them demons. There are other names for them. They've been known throughout history, pretty much in every culture. I learned the hard way, and maybe we can talk about this in the next hour, but in the Bridgeport case of 1974 with the Warrens, I learned the hard way that at least I came to believe that these were not demons in any theological sense of the word. And I was studying for the priesthood, so I had a naughty acquaintance with theology. But these things seemed to be feeding upon what was going on. During exorcisms in the 1970s, they seemed to be feeding on what was going on, and we were the dupes, and I think that's where I sort of realized, at least, and I still believe it, that these were parasites, and Ben and I have run into them frequently.
Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. Gentlemen, when you talk about, and Ben, we'll start with you on this, when we talk about the potential of multiple worlds out there, I always, when I think about that, I think of these parallel universes or some sort of polar vortexes that are happening that people are claiming to see, and even some are saying they can create them. Is that what you're talking about when you talk about the multiple worlds?
Well, yes and no. So essentially, when we refer to multiple worlds, we're using the model of physics known as the multiple worlds interpretation of quantum physics, essentially postulating that anything that is possible exists in some parallel world, in which case we tend to find that they kind of worlds that are most like other worlds tend to hang around in sort of clusters with each other, although on the off chance, some kind of blend with others that may produce some completely alien effects. And I use that word very what's the word? I can't even think of the word. No, not broadly. I'm using it on purpose. I'm using the word alien on purpose because, something like Mothman, right? That doesn't really occur naturally. Or, something like Bigfoot, where does he come from?
Right.
Where does he go? Where is he, disappearing to after all this time? And, you see tracks, you find some hairs, but he's just gone in a flash. People will follow tracks and they just stop. So where does he go? And I believe my dad does as well, that really this is a multiple worlds occurrence in which all of these sort of phenomena are really just different worlds melding and blending with each other. For example, right? So Einstein essentially proved with his theory of special relativity that, time doesn't really exist, that, space and time are curved. And so, it doesn't really sort of function in a linear manner. So, Back to the Future is not actually good science. What is actually good science is Interstellar. That's actually pretty good physics. And sadly, the scientist that was the main advisor on the film said in an interview that he got more money from advising that film than he did from any science grant ever, which is very depressing. Anyway, so really what we're dealing with here is sort of a mix of parallel worlds and time, but time not as we would sort of experience it, linearly, but time as sort of this loose construct where, you can have parallel lives going on at the same time. Everybody talks about, oh, my past lives, but, they're not the past, they're happening right now. Because any physicist will tell you that time travel doesn't go back and forth, it goes side to side because it's all happening simultaneously. I've heard stories of people saying, oh, well, I did past life therapy and, I fixed, this guy's problem and then my problems were solved. It's like, well, you weren't fixing his problem then. You're fixing his problem now. And you're fixing your problem now. And it's creating solutions because it's all now and it's all us. And, if the multiple worlds interpretation of quantum physics is correct, then the next natural step would be, I'm you, Dave, or you're me, or I'm this microphone, or I'm this computer, or you're this computer, or you're my cat that's sitting on my table right now. It's all this sort of cosmic oneness that exists. And it is that sort of logical step of, quantum physics.
Paul and Ben Eno are our guests tonight on Spaced Out Radio. You bring up an interesting topic there about time travel. And as we look at these portals and everything, and time travel and whether or not there's actually there, do either of you think that there are any current time travelers here?
Would you like to take this one, Dad, or shall I?
Okay, well, all right, I'll give you a break there. We have to, as Ben will tell you, I've always insisted that we define our terms. A time traveler is, in the old paradigm, is someone who travels back and forth in time, comes back from the future. Usually it's from the future, not from the past, although I suppose that's possible as well. But we don't see it that way. There was one fellow who was on Facebook, and he claimed to be a time traveler, and he said, oh, he went back in time, and he looked down on the dinosaurs, and he named all, it was kind of funny, actually, he named all sorts of different species that didn't live at the same time. I got kind of a charge out of that. But there are a lot of baloney throwers, too. But I think that all of us, if the point of view that we have, that Ben has laid out is correct, that all time is simultaneous, that there are many versions of ourselves, there are worlds in which we are each other, quite literally, then we are all time travelers. in the parallel worlds. Okay, what are you seeing when you see a ghost? Okay, Ben mentioned, Aunt Gertrude. Somebody comes in, that could be a parasite, but it could also be Aunt Gertrude in a world in which she never died. And we're seeing it because it's a close parallel world with very similar laws of physics. One thing to understand is that these worlds have very different laws of physics at times. At least that's what's postulated by the theories. And that's why, perhaps, I stood in that kitchen in 1974 in Connecticut with 3 police officers and 3 firefighters. We all watched the refrigerator float. Because perhaps we've actually had to invent terms, Dave, just to talk about some of these concepts, because we didn't think there were any words to describe. We call it an overwash of parallel world boundaries or membranes or brains, BRANES. Perhaps a world in which the laws of physics allowed the refrigerator to float, and we happen to be standing there watching it. I mean, that's one possibility. So I think that we're looking. It's the first day of school. We're looking at an entirely new paradigm. And I just think that it's hard to get our minds around. But if you work I worked as a seminary student. I did pastoral work in psychiatric hospitals, and I would look into the eyes of people who had been diagnosed as schizophrenic, and sometimes, or actually almost always, they would look back with the most knowing look in their eyes. Some of them were living in parallel worlds, I think, some of which were terrible, others of which were beautiful. And I've addressed groups of psychiatrists on this over the years. And, when you say this, the steam comes out of the ears and the eyes turn red and they get all upset. But very often they'll come up to you afterwards and privately say, I've often suspected the same thing, that these diseases, these chemical imbalances in the brain are no such thing, or at least that they open up doors into real worlds that we can't experience. But I said, if I mentioned that, I'd lose my job, regardless of their academic rank. So, I mean, I think this is, again, the first day of school. It's a whole new paradigm to look at this. And I think when you're looking at a ghost, particularly one that looks physical, it's in clothes, I think very often, at least, you're looking at someone who never died across the membrane. And that's why we run into people, ghosts, quote unquote, who think we're ghosts haunting them and are afraid. We have to reassure them because they see us how? Across the membrane, which is what? Apparently electrically charged air molecules. That's all that they really are, which, of course, electromagnetism keeps the boundaries there and keeps the world separate to some degree sometimes. And I think that wild as it sounds, that might very well be what the ghost experience is all about. You're not looking at a spirit. As a matter of fact, in our world, the laws of physics don't permit the existence of spirits, with disembodied entities with complete memories and everything, all brain function. I mean, that's just not. It wouldn't be possible. So you're looking, perhaps, we think, at the real person, body and all, who never died. As a matter of fact, we don't even believe in death. We don't even call it that. We call it translation. It's an ancient theological term for death. So again, it's a whole new paradigm. So sorry to run on.
No, and I had that experience a couple of years ago where we were doing a tour and along the Gold Rush Trail here. And we had a Chinese couple, because the Chinese were very big in British Columbia, panning for gold and helping build the central part of the province. And they had, we 9 of us connected with these spirits. There was a group of 9, and we all connected with these spirits. And here we are. We said, hey, congratulations. Thank you for talking, and great to chat with you. Good night. You guys can go on your way. And for the next 5 minutes, we tried to figure out why they hadn't moved, because we were still getting recordings on our gear. And eventually we realized that, well, were we the ghosts that were blocking them on the trail? Because when we cleared the trail, they went on. And all the machines that they were lighting up were now turning off as they continued down the trail. So that really made me think, for the first time in that instance, whether or not they were actually dead, or we were actually on and viewing a different timeline. So I get what you're saying with that. And that is something that is part of the fun of the mystery, is it not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, actually.
It's the quest for knowledge, just a thirst for it. And I can't get enough of it. It's just, you learn something every time. And that's what life is about.
Very true. Very true. Do you ever think there will come a day, as we only got about 3.5 minutes here before we got to go to break at the top of the hour, Ben, do you ever think there will come a day where we're actually solving any of these mysteries? Or do you think that they're just a hair out of reach that we'll never get to?
Well, I mean, science is changing all the time. And as a good friend of ours, Mark D'Antonio, always says, some of the stuff's just undiscovered science. And I think that maybe there's a chance that, we could figure it all out. But, in the end, I think that we'll never really know, and I think that's probably what drives all of us is, this sort of never ending search. Right. There was an ancient guy who once said, it's sort of like an infinite spiral. Where you kind of just keep following and following and following and following. Maybe you'll find it, maybe you won't. But you kind of just keep going along that path, right? We all got to find our sort of holy grail, so to speak. And I think that it's one of those things where you like to hope that you will, but more than likely, statistically and in all probability, you probably won't. And, I think that there comes a point where you just kind of become okay with that. And you kind of become okay with not knowing and sort of taking what you learn and your experiences and applying it and see if it can help other people.
See, I'm not okay. I want to know. With everything that I've gone through, I want to know in regards to what is going on, Ben. And I don't think it's too much to ask. Do I think I'll ever get the answer? Not a hope in hell, my friend. Not a hope in hell. But I have to keep going. I have to try and figure out the massive question of why me.
That's an interesting question to ask too, because it is. I always think about that too, which is, what is it about us specifically, or is it us? Is it completely random? Or is there some sort of higher thing at work? It's why I always have such an issue with people, putting human traits on non-human entities, and it's hard to understand the motivations of something that's not entirely human.
Very true.
Speaking of not entirely human, there's my cat screaming at me.
Well, the cat's doing its job. That's the main thing.
Oh yeah.
Paul, we got about 45 seconds. You want to jump in here?
Well, sure. I mean, I think the thrill of the hunt, the quest for knowledge, it's something I can't get enough of. And also, again, the spiritual aspect. I think that's rather than hurting one spiritual, I think the proper approach glorifies God, if you will. Whether you believe in God as he, she, it, or them, or nothing. I mean, it takes us outside of ourselves and shows us how big we and the multiverse really are.
Right. I probably should have led with that in the not knowing.
Yeah.
Well, we want to know too, Dave.
Oh yeah. And that's a big one for all of us. We just need to figure it out. How we get there, who knows? Maybe it is God. Gentlemen, we are going to say goodnight. I should tell our fans we're going to say goodnight to Ben here, who has a project early in the morning that he has to get to. But Paul is going to stick with us for the next couple of hours here, hour and a half here on Spaced Out Radio. As we continue with the paranormal talk, we'll get into some exorcisms and what it was like to work with Ed and Lorraine Warren coming up on Spaced Out Radio with Paul Eno.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
We're taking Sunday nights out of this world on Spaced Out Radio. This is Michael W. Hall, also known as the Paranormal Lawyer. Together, we're going to go on an exciting journey into the unknown. I'm going to bring you some of the best interviews in the paranormal and supernatural to start your new week off on a freaky note. So tune in to Spaced Out Sundays with me, Michael W. Hall, only on spacedoutradio.com.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best-rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefoot?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Hey everyone, I'm John Edwards.
And I'm Stacey Edwards. Together we're taking over Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio, where we're going to bring our own experiences of the paranormal and talk to the best people we can find to help bring you answers to your strange tales.
We're here to entertain your need for weekend woo! So tune us in at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, where we can all get a little spooky together.
Spaced Out Saturday nights right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us on this Friday night. We want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates and on the digital side, Revolution Radio. Remember, you can check out all of our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. And if you're watching us live on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. We would appreciate that. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Camelopard. Camelopard is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. Do a little shopping at the SOR Vault. Grab a great book from We Read the Night. Join the Space Travelers for $5 a month, and Captain Shirk has you all up to date with the SOR Newswire. Don't forget to get your horns up for Ron Bumblefoot Thal, our guitar god himself. Paul Eno is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. He's been investigating for more than 35, 40 years in this field, and it goes back to hanging out and learning from two of the best in Ed and Lorraine Warren. This is a relationship that he forged over the years with everything, because paranormal does have its way of bringing people together, and this was something that he bonded with Ed and Lorraine with. Paul, I got to ask you, when you talk about Ed and Lorraine Warren, as many people have, it's very legendary, the stories and the abilities that they had to try and be, let's just call them the modern-day ghost hunters. Ghost hunting has been going on for centuries, but when it comes to our timeline, Ed and Lorraine Warren were basically the start of it all, the start of the popularity.
Well, in the modern day, yes, I always refer to them as the grandparents of modern ghost hunting. And it was, I first met them, my first case was in 1970, and I had the theory that maybe, and I was just studying for the priesthood, that maybe ghosts, as they are known throughout history and in every culture, are souls in purgatory. Good old Roman Catholic kid, I believed in purgatory, which is this state. The use of, in order to satisfy the Western mania for pigeonholing everything, the state, if you're not quite bad enough to go to hell, not quite good enough to go to heaven, you go to purgatory, where you are purged, hence the name, of your sins, and then can enter heaven. And that was the belief. I believe that. So I thought maybe these are these earthbound spirits and all this stuff are our souls in purgatory. But the very first case, we walked. This did not involve the war. Really, they kind of helped me on my first case rather than me helping them with anything, because they came in and they made a visit at one point. But we being a couple of seminary students and myself, and a local historian, did the mapping and researched this whole thing and the history, et cetera, et cetera. But you'd walk into this old abandoned village in northeast Connecticut. Our first actual trip was in 1971 in August, very hot. You could hear the sounds of daily life. You could hear farm implements banging together, people talking, children laughing. You could hear dogs barking as if it was a normal day in the life of somebody somewhere or somewhere else. And that's a whole story in itself, that case. But I wrote that up as a theory. I mean, these people didn't seem to be dead at all, never mind in any kind of purgatory. But nevertheless, I wrote an article about it, and Lorraine received it from one of our contacts in the town of Pomfret, Connecticut, who knew her, and she thought this purgatory thing was a terrific idea. So she got in touch with me and invited me down to dinner at their house in Monroe, Connecticut, which is the other end of the state. And compared with, British Columbia, it's Connecticut's tiny, but I mean, to us in New England, it's relatively moderate size. So anyway, Lorraine, a tremendous cook. You never turn down a meal cooked by Lorraine. So that's when I first met them. Was at their house in early 1972, and it was quite the experience from then on out. We kind of got to know each other. Ed was very excited that I was studying for the priesthood and thought I might be a good asset. And he would, as we got to know each other, he kind of gave me some advice on this case in Pomfret, and he would sometimes pass off to me cases that he didn't have time for or wasn't interested in. And some of them were interesting, some of them were not. But the real interesting part came in 1974, 2 years later, when I was home from the seminary, which my seminary was in upstate New York. And I actually might have been involved in the Amityville case had I not been stuck in my class schedule at the seminary at the other end of the state. But be that as it may, I was on Thanksgiving vacation. It was November 24th, 1974, a Sunday, and I drove down to their house for dinner. I didn't know anything else that was going on. We didn't have any cell phones or anything. Nobody knew what was cooking until he actually got there. So I pulled up to their house, kind of in a rural area at the end of a cul-de-sac, and Lorraine came leaping out the door and said, "Are you in a high spiritual state right now?" So I knew what that meant, and I was actually, to tell the truth, in a terrible spiritual state, because I was trying to decide whether to leave the Roman Catholic Church and join the Eastern Orthodox Church, and because I'd been hanging around in Canada, in Ottawa, actually, the other end of the country than you almost, and there was I'd gotten involved in that. So naturally, I said, "Oh, I'm great. Let's do it." So the four of us in two separate cars, Ed Warren and Father Bill Charbonneau and Lorraine, Ed Warren and myself and Father Bill Charbonneau and Lorraine were headed down to the Bridgeport town. So she had, I would have missed this had she not come back to wait for Father Bill Charbonneau and for me. And then we went down to this little tiny house on Lindley Street in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Now, the scene that met my eyes was really something I had never experienced before. Now, the Warrens had been down there earlier. There's a long build-up, as there always is, to these poltergeist cases where, you start out with a few thumps on the wall, and then it turns into this awful bang, and then things start moving. Well, that morning, the family had been awakened by banging, and the knives had flown across the kitchen, and things had been torn off the wall. And something, when I went in, Mrs. Gooden, when she arrived back from the hospital, she had been had a broken toe because of a falling television set. Explained that the thing, as she called it, had been pushing the child's baby carriage around the house and filling it up with clothes from the various drawers. There were police officers in the house. The reporters began to arrive shortly after this. And one thing Ed always did that I disagreed with was calling in the press. Now, it's ironic. When they threw me out of the seminary in 1977 for being involved in this stuff, the only other thing I knew how to do was write, so I shoehorned my way into a career in journalism without ever having studied it. And it's been a really, really fascinating career for 40 years since then. But so I would never call in the press ever. But what's the first thing Ed did? I don't know. I guess, it was good publicity. So among the things that happened in this case, and there were many, was on that first day, that Sunday afternoon, as I mentioned in the first hour, I stood in the kitchen with 3 police officers on one side and three firefighters on the other, and we all watched this refrigerator, had to be at least 300 pounds, pick itself up, kind of move a little bit, and then set itself back down very quietly. Interestingly, when things were happening in this house, I didn't feel the presence of any kind of entity. Now, one of the things I kept very close to the vest was, I guess, what today might be called psychic or mediumistic stuff. Now, I don't consider it to be that. I just think, you pick stuff up. If our ancestors hadn't been able to sense things, we wouldn't be here. And like the cavemen, as we call them, were not stupid, or they wouldn't have survived. They, I think, had certain abilities to feel when they were being watched, particularly by the saber-toothed cat that was looking at them as a hot lunch, that sort of thing. So I think we all have these abilities, so I don't think it's anything unusual. So I felt, as soon as I walked in that door, that there were 4 entities in this house. Now, we were calling them demons. The whole idea of our being there, particularly Father Bill Charbonneau, was we were waiting for permission from the Bishop of Bridgeport, the Roman Catholic bishop, to perform an exorcism in the house. Roman Catholics have a very institutionalized system of exorcism with the Roman ritual and very set prayers and things of this kind, and a priest has to have the permission of a bishop to do it. Other religions are not such sticklers about it, but there are good reasons why the Latins feel that way, so I respected that. But the permission never came, and we hung around for the better part of 3 days waiting for it with all this stuff happening around us. So probably for me, 2 of the most interesting things that happened were Sunday night. There was a police officer in the house. There was a reporter from one of the local radio stations. The little girl who seemed to be the center of this, her name was Marcy. She was 10 years old. She was an adopted child of this 40-ish middle-aged couple. And my job that Ed gave to me, he said, keep an eye on the little girl, make sure she's not doing any of this, like flipping lamps or things like that, or 300-pound refrigerators, lifting them, all that kind of thing. So that's what I was kind of doing. So we were in the kitchen on Sunday night, sitting at the table. Lorraine and I were sitting at the table. There was a police officer. Everybody's drinking coffee. And all of a sudden, Lorraine goes, ooh. And I looked down, and on her hand, right where the thumb meets the forefinger, there was a blister, a 2nd-degree burn blister, arising. I watched it form. And there's even a tape recording of this that Bill Hall, who wrote the excellent book, The World's Most Haunted House, about this case, first and only full book written about it, said that he got some tapes from the radio station, and sure enough, you can hear Lorraine making the sound and me saying there's a blister forming. And Ed wanted her out of this house right away because he said spontaneous human combustion could take place in this house. And Lorraine was a highly sensitive psychic, but she refused to leave. And certainly the pièce de résistance for me was the following night, Monday night, the 25th of November, 1974. The Warrens had left to be on some TV show. And I was in the house with the little girl, the 2 parents, John Sopko, a reporter from the Bridgeport Post, and one of the neighbors, which was not much of a crowd for this place because of the previous 24 hours had just been crazy. People running in and out, police officers, reporters, curiosity seekers. And the little girl and I were playing Monopoly. Don't ask me why a 10-year-old kid liked Monopoly, but that was her favorite game. So we were doing that, and all of a sudden I looked in the kitchen, and something was arriving. That's the best way I can put it. And the funny thing was, Mr. Gooden, who was an ordinary salt-of-the-earth, blue-collar worker in the city of Bridgeport there, said something's going to happen. And he walked into the kitchen, and he started chanting in the most beautiful bass voice, what sounded to me like the Latin funeral mass. So what the hey is that? But I didn't have much chance to be dazzled by that because he came back into the living room and 4 entities seemed to follow him. you could almost see these gauzy structures coming down the hallway. One of them, when this started, I had a little prayer book, and I started to an Orthodox prayer book, and I started to chant a prayer in praise of Christ. And I put the little girl behind me, and one of these things came right up to me, and I knew it was after her. And this, Dave, is where I learned the hard way not to get angry, fearful, or annoyed in front of these things, because they feed on it. This thing became stronger and stronger, and hence the idea of the parasite. All right. And the most frightening times, Dave, I think, are not necessarily the phenomena, which can be bad enough. It's the phenomena that smash your belief system, especially when you were in my position, of being a seminary student, clinging to this. I mean, what else do we have to cling to but our belief systems, no matter what they may be? Well, I pushed against this thing. And this is supposed to be a demon, a spirit, in the classical sense. This thing had a body. I could feel bone structure. I'm not being an anatomist. I can't identify it. But it pushed back, and I kind of stumbled, and it got around me and threw the little girl across the room. So I didn't know what to do. I was, every emotion you can think of. But I felt the power in that room getting stronger and stronger and stronger. I'm surprised the light bulbs didn't light up. So I pulled everybody out of the house. I said, we have to let this dissipate. And I didn't know what I was doing. I just felt we had to get out of there. Down onto the sidewalk. And fortunately, the police had blocked off the street at both ends, because there was a crowd. It's been estimated anywhere from 2,000 to 10,000 outside this house that afternoon, and of course the next day too. But the police had blocked off the street. So we didn't come out into the middle of a crowd. It started to sleet, and of course no cell phones, no way to contact the warden. So I ran next door to a house, and something apparently followed me, knocked on the door after I went in, and the little kid said, "Mommy, the priest wants to use the phone." Now, remember, the movie The Exorcist had come out in December of 1973, like less than a year before this. So everybody's expecting Father Bill or me to come flying out the window like the priest did at the end. Fortunately, that didn't happen. One of the few things that didn't happen. But I called the Warrens, and it took them an hour to come the 10 miles back into the city because of all the traffic and the congestion created by this mess. So they got there, and we went back into the house, and things had dissipated. But it's funny, we had left the radio on in the kitchen, and they were speculating why we had left the house. So things, the next day, some other things happened, and then the next day, we had to go get something to eat, to get a little sleep. It was too much. So we were going to go back to the Warrens' house. We left earlier in the day, and Mrs. Gooden made us promise to come back. We decided to come back to the house at 2:30 in the afternoon. Marcy, the little girl, hugged me and made me promise to come back. Mrs. Gooden hugged me and made me promise to come back. Well, I went back to my own house in East Hartford, Connecticut, a lot farther than the Warrens, and I happened to have WCBS in New York on the car radio, and they said that the case had been declared a hoax by the police. Well, apparently the police were waiting for us to leave, because they entered the house, and at the orders of Superintendent Walsh, who was the police honcho in Bridgeport, they said, "The city's tied up in knots. This is the end. The kid did it." And that's what the press was told. So I went back to the house. I didn't know it. I didn't understand any of this. So I went back to the house at 2:30 as requested. And there was a huge linebacker police officer standing there. Mrs. Gooden came out and said, "Officer, throw him off our property." And he said, "I'm sorry, you got to go." So I went up to the Warrens, and we kind of had to try to regroup. And we were still getting calls from the press as far away as Australia. And the Toronto Globe and Mail, I remember, was calling. And Ed said, apparently, as soon as we left, the police went in and did as I said. And so Ed and I went on the radio that night to the Tiny Markle show in Bridgeport, and we were battling with the police. And a lot of people were calling in and saying that, it was very fishy that the police were reporting this, and then all of a sudden it was a hoax, in front of trained observers such as police officers, reporters, things of this kind. And no police officer since has ever recanted his story. And Ed sent me copies of the police reports where the police are actually reporting the floating refrigerator and the things flying off the walls and the tables jumping and things of this kind. And those were public record. I think they've managed to disappear, but I've reproduced them in a couple of my books. So as a bit of comic relief there, I guess, Dave, part of this case was the alleged talking cat, Sam the talking cat. Now, the little girl was, you can see the background of the whole poltergeist thing, ringing the dinner bell, if you will. The little girl had tremendous overprotection by her parents. She had been stuck in the house for 6 weeks because of what we today would say bullying at school. And this cat, she told me, was her only friend. And she would hold the cat close to her face, and she's throwing her voice. Although Mr. Gooden said that he swears the cat would come up to the bottom of the cellar door, knock on the door, and say, "Let me out of here, you dirty Frenchman, you dirty rat." The name was Gooden. That's a quote from the cat. I'm part French myself, so but in any case, I will never forget the sight of network reporters, because this is close to New York, so you had CBS, NBC, and ABC at the time, up here, and reporters from the networks holding microphones up to the cat and begging it to say something. So, I mean, in a way, that kind of just summed up the goofiness that was going on here. So it was quite the case, and it sort of descended into chaos. We heard a lot of things that happened later on. Duke University Parapsych team came up and did an investigation, but Jerry Solfin later told me that they didn't even write an in-house report on it because of all this. And nobody really, except in the area, knew a lot about this until 2014 when Bill Hall wrote his book. And because I wrote about it in 1998, but it was just a chapter in a book. So, but it was that was certainly the biggest case I ever worked on with the Warrens.
With 2 minutes to go before we go to break at the bottom of the hour, Paul, with everything that you learned from them and everything that you experienced with them, fast forward to today, you hear a lot of people who are very critical of what they do and how they did things back then. But they were learning as they went as well, because there was no handbook for this. They just had to learn. What was that experience like, and how real were they as people and as investigators?
Well, let me just, maybe we might have to continue this, but I was studying under Father John Nicola, a Jesuit priest who was the technical advisor for the film The Exorcist. That was the theological approach. I had a very sympathetic faculty in the second seminary I attended. That was a theological approach. Dr. Louisa Ryan from Duke University, she was something of a mentor to me. That was the academic, scholarly parapsychology approach. The Warrens were more sort of the pop ghost hunting approach. Okay. I like to think I talked them out of doing seances. Lorraine said I had done that, and I think that would be an accomplishment. Their methods, I thought, were not very good. I loved them personally. They were like a mother and father to me, because I lost my father when I was 7, and Ed was like a father to me. So I love them to this day very deeply. But I don't like the way they did things. I don't like, first thing, calling in the press. There was no attempt to record data that I could see other than photographs. And I just thought, maybe it was no fault of their own. Maybe it was the best they knew how to do it. But I learned a lot of things not to do, I must say. With all due respect for them, I think that the experience was absolutely invaluable because I learned from their point of view. But I think that I learned a lot of things to do differently, which is why we kind of split up in 1978.
Paul, I'm going to get you to hold on right there as we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Paul Eno is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We are talking paranormal, exorcisms, Ed and Lorraine Warren, and great beards on this show. Don't forget, it is also National Alien Abduction Day, so we're going to hit Paul up on that as well. More coming up on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckard, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Need that weekend supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Carl! Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. What is that, Greco, in the YouTube chat room? My goodness. My goodness. No, I am not wearing chaps while I sit doing this show. All right. I want to remind all of you that if you are looking for our archives, we have them free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We got a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Paul Eno is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Him and his son, Ben, have a long-time radio show/podcast called Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. You can check out their website, behindtheparanormal.com. Over 65 years of investigation between the two. Paul, welcome back to the show, man.
Thanks, Dave.
Hey, right before the break, I'd asked you in regards to Ed and Lorraine Warren, the way they investigated and the way things have changed and the way the field perceives them today. Is it fair to judge, and I'm going to expand this question a little bit because you've done this for so long, is it fair to judge people like Ed and Lorraine or the Patterson-Gimlin film or anything of that ilk, Travis Walton's story, if you want to go into alien abduction, with a 2020 type mind, considering these events happened a lot in the 70s and 60s?
I don't think it's fair at all. I mean, I'm always going on about that because I write about history too. It's not fair to judge people of the past, even the recent past, by the standards, particularly the technological standards that we have today. It's not fair. And it's not objective, and I don't think it gets us anywhere. So, I mean, the technology at the time when I started out and when the Warrens were there was, Ed had a big reel-to-reel tape recorder. Okay, I was a progressive. I had a cassette tape recorder, and on my first case and some of the cases I worked with them, I had an Instamatic. Kodak Instamatic camera, high tech for the time. You didn't have to wind the film; you just threw a cartridge in there and closed the back of the camera, and there it was. So that was the thing. As far as any kind of sophisticated Gauss meters, things of that kind, I guess they existed with needles and a face on them. The first time I ran into that was in the actually late 70s, when an engineer friend I was editor of a local newspaper in Rhode Island here, and the engineer friend said, you're talking about electrical fields, and then I didn't. By the end of the 70s, I was totally confused. I didn't know what was going on here because these things just didn't fit the old paradigm. And I was running into cases of people seeing ghosts of themselves, people walking in and seeing, it's just buildings that hadn't been there before, things of that kind. I said, this is far deeper than dead people. So I started my first, electromagnetic field meter at the time, and I found it useful in some ways, only when they went digital. But the Warrens, going back before this, didn't have any of that. And we kind of split up in 1978 over a case in Rhode Island where I didn't really agree with what they were doing. I think Ed was not really interested in it, and he at the time I still lived in Connecticut, so he didn't think I'd be interested in it. And he kind of left these funny little jars with this funny liquid in it, and the woman, and it was very voodoo-ish to me. And they were supposed to be such great Roman Catholics and so religious, and I said, what are you doing? What's that about? And we had a kind of an argument on the phone, and he said, I kind of dared question them or him. And he said, I don't want to see you. I don't want to talk. And he hung up. But a few minutes later, he called back and he apologized. He said, you're like a son to me. I just, why don't we talk about this? So I said, sure, of course. So we met at this ice cream joint. He and I were both, crazy about sweets. So, and we had kind of, peace conference, and we kind of agreed to disagree. And then I never heard from them again. When Ed translated, I sent Lorraine a card, but I didn't hear back because she was extremely elderly by that time. But a friend of mine from Rhode Island here went to hear them when they spoke in Massachusetts, and he mentioned to Lorraine that he knew me, and she, according to him, she started to cry. So I was like, my gosh, I didn't mean to, create any kind of feeling like that, but I just look back on the happy memories that we had, the many laughs and wonderful times we had, as well as the interesting cases. Like they had in their house, they started out as artists, and they had a barn in Monroe, Connecticut, where while they were doing all the ghost stuff, they would give art lessons. And I sometimes would walk from the house to the barn and use the underground tunnel that they had constructed there. And in the corner of that tunnel where it kind of turned, there was their what became, I guess, today the big paranormal museum, complete with Annabelle the doll, whom I knew pretty well. But I thought it was a bit much. I don't know. I wasn't involved in that case, the case, which interestingly, I live about 10 miles from that house today. That was in Rhode Island. And that was in 72, just before, at 70, I guess on to 72, just before I met them. So I wasn't involved in that, but I heard all about it and that sort of thing. So I try to look back on the happy memories, and I kind of regret what happened, but I do have questions about the way they did things.
I want to ask you in regards to a little bit change of a topic here, because you deal with everything. And we had a gentleman named Kawani Lapsaritis on the show last night, and I know you have written about Bigfoot. Have you ever been hit on by a female Bigfoot? Because Kawani says he had a female Bigfoot want to hit on him and make sweet love to him in the forest. And I'm not even asking this jokingly. This is exactly what he quoted last night. Do you ever had that happen, Paul?
Well, Dave, I must say I have not been close enough for that to have been a possibility. I had two possible encounters. One was when I was a Boy Scout on a trip to New Mexico in 1967. I was 14 years old, and I had we were in a tent. And it was on one of these sort of hills around there. I don't know if you've ever been to New Mexico, but it's a lot different from what we're used to. And a very, very large wilderness area. And I woke up, and there was one other kid in the tent with me, and they were old-time canvas tents. They didn't have any floors or anything. And we heard something huge walking outside, apparently on two legs, and kind of a snuffling sound. And I, having insatiable curiosity and asking a lot of questions, I kind of got up out of the sleeping bag and I was going to pull, and the other kid said, "Don't you dare!" And I wish I had looked out, but he was terrified. So I kind of got back in the sleeping bag. And then when we got up about an hour later, there were little holes dug all over the camp. There were maybe 5 tents. So something had been like digging. For what? I don't know, grubs? I don't know. So it most likely was a bear, but it sounded like it was on two legs. So I didn't see anything then. Flash forward to September 16th, 2016. And we are investigating. It was our first, I should say, our second trip to the Pennsylvania Triangle, as we call it. And this is a flap area. I can explain what that is. One of our terms we invented. And I was, we'd gotten a lot of photos of strange lights in the sky the previous May on our previous trip. And again, it was September 16, 2016. It was a Friday, brilliant moonlit night. And I was in my truck up in the highest field on this large tract of land. A gorgeous night, the moon, etc. And I had the cameras set up to look for stuff in the sky. Now, I ought to know, after all these years, that things never happen as you expect them to. So sure enough, something I'd been there for several hours, something about 11:15 at night grabbed my attention to the right. And I looked, and there was the window on that side of the truck was shut because it was kind of chilly. And I remember the two huge legs and knees moving up and down, walking up this hill toward the center of this field. And I remember the head bowed as if it was looking for something. And I kind of did a double take, and I raised my infrared camera, shot through this cold window, of course, no heat signature. So I went to get out of the truck as quietly as I could, and my phone rings. It was my wife, closest I ever came to divorce, I'll tell you. And people say, shut off the phone from now on, Paul. But I was a little new to this Bigfoot stuff. So all of a sudden, the ringtone is the theme from Lord of the Rings. That goes blasting out over the field. So naturally, whatever it was gone. And I answered the phone. I said, I'm in the middle of a Bigfoot sighting. And my wife said, what? So in any case, it was gone. But then a few moments later, after I finished the conversation, some lights appeared in a tree on the other side of the field. Now, they didn't look weird or anything. They looked like somebody with a spotlight on the ground. So I didn't take off. I didn't know what was in the field as far as holes were concerned, so I didn't take off. But the next evening, we had the first of what have become annual neighborhood meetings in this area. Today, they've grown to the point where we have to go to a restaurant because there are just too many people who've seen Bigfoot and strange lights. They won't fit in each other's houses in the large groups they are. We have 30 to 40 people. So I told this story. We gave a presentation, and I all of a sudden I got to this part, and a hand went up when I talked about the lights, and it was a woman named Melissa who lived on the other side of the field, and she said that was my son and me when we had gotten home from the store very late, and we heard something big walking through that field while I was seeing it. And these people are so used to this. She took their flashlights and they went up, and they didn't see. All they saw was this swath through the grass, but they didn't see whatever it was. And they flashed lights into the tree. I said, "Why did you shine lights into the tree?" And she said, "Because sometimes they were in the trees." So romance aside, that was my experience most recently. And Shane Searway, if you haven't had him on your show, you should.
Oh, great guy. Great guy. Good friend of this show.
Good friend of ours too. He's one of our we don't have a group or team. We have sort of an informal gang of old friends, and Shane's one of them.
Yes.
And he himself had an experience of the previous May on the very first trip in broad daylight. He was parked down there with his truck, and it was raining, and he just happened to look up, and there was between these two trees. He thought it was a bear at first, so he started up and he took off toward it, and it ran out from behind the tree, and these two huge arms were swinging as Shane described it. Now the one I saw seemed to have brown fur, but the one Shane saw in daylight had black fur. And several deer were flushed in the process, and so this is the circus that is this Pennsylvania Triangle. But those are other than maybe some sounds and some tracks. As far as personal encounters with Bigfoot, those are the only two I think I've ever had. But again, no romance, which is probably just as well.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. I really don't want to know what that's like. I've experienced a lot. That is one experience that I do not want, Paul. I do not want that one at all.
I can agree with that. Yeah.
And I know she would never call me back in the morning. I know that.
No.
It's It's terrible. Hey, but I do want to hit on a more serious subject here. I mean, we can all sit here and laugh and say it's National Alien Abduction Day. And in your paths that you've crossed, in the investigations you have done, this is probably a pretty serious topic for many people that you have dealt with. What's your idea on the phenomena from the way it was when you were investigating way back when you got into this, comparatively to what you've learned now? How has it changed?
Well, everything has changed. I think it's particularly for me back in that house in 1974 when I was encountering those entities. The impression I didn't get demon, which is what we thought they were. I got alien. They were completely other. They were the best term I can put on them is alien. In a broad sense of the term. Now, I'm not saying they were from another planet. They could be. And one of the things I asked Bill Hall to do when he was working on his book, I said, look, go back to some old records, MUFON or whoever, and look at UFO sightings in that area for that week, that period of time, that month of November 74. And sure enough, there was a spike in UFO sightings. And I said, look at other houses in the area. Did they have any problems? Sure enough, they did. But at the time, it was one house, one family, and we didn't even look in the yard, out in the back. And I learned that is a big mistake. And I think that really things expand greatly when you look outside if you pardon the cliche, outside the box. So by the end of the 70s, I was suspecting that these things were a lot bigger and affecting a lot more people and places than we had initially suspected. And sure enough, when I started looking farther, I started running into UFOs. And I realized, and I think it's still correct, that in our paradigm, we place labels on phenomena that we can understand, but that may not do justice at all to the depth or the true reality of these phenomena. We work today with people who are very prominent names, including Kathleen Marden, Denise Stone, or people of that caliber, who are involved in the Edgar E. Mitchell Foundation for Research on Extraterrestrial and Extraordinary Experiences. And they said, well, we were investigating from the other end. We were investigating UFOs and abduction cases, and people started all of a sudden having, not in every case, but started having quote unquote demonic phenomena occurring before, during, or after their abduction experience. So are the labels we are placing on these things accurate? I don't think so. I think the label we place on things depends on our experience of it. If you're standing in a field, Dave, and you see some kind of weird creature or a blob flash past you, and there's a light in the sky, aha, an alien. If you're in an old house and you see that go by, aha, a ghost. Well, it could be one or the other, or it could be neither. And this is why we try to embrace the whole area we're investigating and to see if we can get anywhere that way. So, I think that things have changed to the point where many of these fields that were considered mutually exclusive are blending now. And I think a lot of people in the field are accepting that. And so you go to conferences, and you, particularly the ones we attend, and you'll hear stuff on exorcisms. And then what we do in our talks is we'll connect them with possession cases and abduction cases. Because in 1973, even before I do the Warrens, but I did work on this with them, we were involved in, I was at the seminary in Ogdensburg, New York, Wadhams Hall Seminary, the college level seminary, last 2 years. And there was a priest who who lived there at the seminary, but he didn't teach. I didn't know what he did. But one day he called me to his room and he said, I understand you're working with Lorraine Warren. And I said, yes, Father, I am. And in the course of this, they came up at their own expense to all the way to Ogdensburg, New York, on the border with Ontario. And they gave a talk for the student body, which I thought was really nice of them. And Ed was closeted with this Father Lawrence. In my book, I call him Father Lawrence Wheeler because I don't know if his family would appreciate me blowing all this information. But he came out and said, I'd have him with me in any emergency at all in any case. And Father Lawrence liked him too. But Father Lawrence called me into his room, and we, over the course of several conversations, he invited me to, he said he needed an assistant at the local state hospital. Now, he was ostensibly the Catholic chaplain at St. Lawrence State Hospital up the road from the seminary. But actually what he was doing, he was the diocesan exorcist for the Diocese of Ogdensburg, New York. And he was a wonderful man. He has this sort of buzzy voice. You had to kind of get used to it. I don't know if he had a speech impediment or what, but he took me with him to the hospital, and there were 10 exorcism cases that well, actually, there was one on the same person. And I should say 7, not 10. And of 5 of these cases, the people were saying that they had had experiences with little figures by their beds and seeing strange lights in the sky. And some had missing time experiences, which at the time, I had never heard of that before. So I went to Father Lawrence and I said, shouldn't we pay attention to this? And he said, no, these people, he was a very compassionate and kind man, but he said in so many words, these people are inmates at a state hospital. They're officially bonkers anyway, so don't pay any attention to that. So I wish we had, because again, you have what are called today crossover phenomena taking place, and the UFO people run into it, and so do we.
I've been talking a lot to David Weatherly, John Tenney, and a few others about this over the last number of months. Do you believe that there is an imaginary thread that connects all of the fields together? I do believe there is one. And, trying to convince people that that everything is segregated and separated, I think is just false. I think it's false information comparatively to what we have seen throughout the way things go. What's your thoughts?
I agree. Yeah, I agree. There's a new organization called the Consciousness and Contact Research Institute, and Ben and I are involved. He's on the advisory board. I'm on the research committee, and we're among the few who don't have PhDs in this group, and founded by our good friend Ray Hernandez, who was just a mover and shaker in this field. Great stuff as far as trying to get some reasonable research methods involved here. And a lot of them will say, when we have these meetings, that they'll talk to people who will recognize the idea that these phenomena are really related in some way or other. When you get to we're trying to put together a questionnaire, and very often when you put questions to people who have had abduction experiences, we'll always say, has anything else weird happened to you in your life? Yes, I lived in a haunted house, and I would see something trying to communicate with me, or I'd see these small figures or large figures or whatever. And very often there would be people who had seen cryptids. And now maybe this is coincidental, although I don't believe in coincidence, but there do seem to be some real correlations and a very real thread that runs among these phenomena.
Yeah, and as we got about a minute to go here before we go to break, I think that's the new wave of what we are seeing. Too. And I think it's, as the weekend warriors continue to do their things in the forest, looking up in the stars, or running around to tourism places like Waverly Hills, I think they're missing the boat. I really do think they're missing the boat.
I think so, too. I like to think we brought Stan Friedman around a bit on this. Stan, a very, very nuts and bolts UFO guy. But he wrote the foreword to our book that Ben and I wrote together in 2016, Behind the Paranormal, Everything You Know Is Wrong. And he acknowledged that there's some new thinking going on here. And we were honored not only to have him write it, but to have him admit that maybe we had some kind of point, So I think a lot of people are realizing that these crossover phenomena are something to be paid attention to.
Well, that's something we're going to look at here coming up, because we got another half an hour with you tonight, Paul, and we're just going to go wherever it goes. We're going to go wherever it goes. We're having a lot of fun tonight. Paul Eno is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Now, this guy is a plethora of information. You can find all his books, everything on his website, BehindTheParanormal.com, BehindTheParanormal.com. Make sure you check that on out. We go into hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio with Paul Eno, the SOR Newswire, and the Thought of the Dave. Hour 3 next.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines Report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
Hey everyone, I'm John Edwards.
And I'm Stacey Edwards. Together we're taking over Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio, where we're going to bring our own experiences of the paranormal and talk to the best people we can find to help bring you answers to your strange tales.
We're here to entertain your need for weekend woo! So tune us in at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, where we can all get a little spooky together.
Spaced Out Saturday nights right here at spacedoutradio.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckard, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
We're taking Sunday nights out of this world on Spaced Out Radio. This is Michael W. Hall, also known as the Paranormal Lawyer. Together, we're going to go on an exciting journey into the unknown. I'm going to bring you some of the best interviews in the paranormal and supernatural to start your new week off on a freaky note. So tune in to Spaced Out Sundays with me, Michael W. Hall, only on spacedoutradio.com.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates, as well as on the digital side on Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. Remember, you can check out all of our archives for free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, doing a little shopping at the SOR Vault, and read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire as well. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Camelopard. Camelopard is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, once again, spacedoutradio.com. Make sure you check it on out. Paul Eno is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We have him until the bottom of the hour. About 40-plus years of investigating the paranormal. This man has seen it and done it all in this field and talked to everybody who is involved. All his books are on their website, behindtheparanormal.com. I highly suggest you check it on out. Paul, what a pleasure it is to have you here. And I'm going to start this hour off with a question from Nathan, who is asking, have you seen the Hellier series? And what do you think about that in regards to their investigations?
Oh, okay. Thank you for your kind words, Dave. I appreciate that. It's great to be with you. Okay, the Hellier. I can't say I know the Newkirks very well, but we met last year at a conference we were both speaking at, and I have only just begun to watch it, so I can't, with any sort of intelligence, respond very fully to the question. But I don't know. There's a lot of I don't know. I just, the whole business with some of the dialogue and the approach, I don't know. I'm suspecting there's a lot of showmanship going on, but I don't want to be unfair because I want to watch the whole thing first. I could be wrong.
Well, they started off, obviously, on looking for goblins in Kentucky, and it's since then taken kind of an occult-type turn with synchronicities and numerology and everything like that. And it's funny because they're noticing as they go through it, everything that we just talked about right before the break about that invisible thread. So I'm not, if you haven't seen it all, I'm not going to continue with that because I don't want to scare you off from watching it, but, you know.
You're not going to scare me.
True. All right, Greco has a question. He says, is it possible to talk about the paranormal without infusing religion in it at any point? It doesn't seem to enhance the paranormal field any. What's your thoughts?
That's a very interesting question, especially coming out of a seminary background. And very often I'm on shows like this, and in the half hour, whether it's Coast or you or whatever, you know, there are people who always get upset that I don't embrace their religious beliefs because, you know, they figure I was in the seminary, so I should. Well, I don't think that that's the right approach. Most people don't understand their own religions. I think that many things in religion are like many things in the paranormal, have labels on them but reflect deeper realities. I think that you could say that the paranormal is the mother of both science and religion, which are supposed to be at such odds. I mean, that's only very recent, because among our remote ancestors, if there had been no questions to ask, no mysteries to be solved, why did my parent or my son die in the mouth of a saber-toothed cat? You know, something like that. These are real things that our ancestors faced, and I think that the idea of the mysteries, thinking that they were talking or to supernatural beings, which if the ancient astronaut thing is correct, they certainly did think they were talking to supernatural beings or non-physical things. You know, a lot of the phenomena that happened to us in the context of that paradigm would bring religion into it. I think that the paranormal is relevant to everything. I think that the term religion is too narrowing. I think the idea of God, again, he, she, it, or them, or some sort of force or whatever you want to call it, personal or otherwise, is relevant to the paranormal because it may have brought the balance to the notions that we use in the paranormal. And what I'm saying is, like, in this multiple worlds theory, as Ben was explaining it, you have all possible possibilities existing if that theory is correct. So there are many worlds in which this terrible virus thing is not taking place. There are many worlds that are much more compatible. There are many worlds that are much worse. And so join that with the age-old question, why does God let bad things happen if God is good? Well, maybe that's the wrong question, and you can't get the right answer unless you ask the right question. Part of our idea is submitting the possibility for people to consider that maybe with all possibilities existing, there is a vast, complete elegance to the nature of creation, that all things are possible. And just because we don't see them, if it's not for our personal convenience or whatever particular world we happen to be limiting ourselves to at the time, that doesn't mean that God is bad or doesn't care or whatever. Maybe it does. Maybe God is learning along with the rest of us, and maybe God is all of us. I'm very much into the pantheistic thing, which would make some of my old seminary professors faint, but I think that's a real possibility. I think we'd be open-minded to this, and religion may give meaning. Maybe not religion, because as I say, that means all the stuff that's bad, but I think that faith or open-mindedness to a Godhead, regardless of what that may be, would give the paranormal meaning and a reason for why it is the way it is. I just feel that's it fills out the depth of the whole paranormal experience and awareness. To me, anyway.
Okay, so where do you see the paranormal field heading?
Well, I
mean, outside of the television, because I think we have a way too romantic of a look at the paranormal because of what we see on television. I don't think what we're seeing is very real. I don't think what we're seeing is very truthful to what a lot of people are experiencing. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on this. Where do you see it going?
Well, in many ways, I see it going in a good direction. Precisely the things we talked about today, Dave, were about, expanding the field, expanding the mind to embrace many different areas of the paranormal that may be related to the point where they can teach us what the processes, some of the processes at least are, or as Ben mentioned, the undiscovered science, as our friend Mark D'Antonio says. I think that is good. Remember that when you are watching the TV reality shows, this is entertainment. It's not science. And when it comes to science, I think there are just as many problems in science as there are in paranormal research, because there is the same kind of narrowness. There are politics. Although with the science, you've got who gets the grants, and whoever gives the grants often gets to call the shots. There's just as many problems in science as there are in the paranormal. However, science brings a certain, as I mentioned, disciplined thinking to what one is going through. That being said, one wonders if science is actually up to this, because it's, as Ben mentioned, a materialistic pursuit. It assumes, everybody assumes, the paranormal realm and the scientific, everybody has assumptions that this is a materialistic paradigm and that the paranormal can somehow be made to fit that. I don't think that's true. And I think other than in branches of science such as transpersonal psychology and quantum physics, which a lot of mainstream scientists and other fields are very skeptical about, I think that we may be dealing with a problem of acceptance and open-mindedness among the sciences. For example, one of the producers for our show lives in New York, and she is the wife of one of the most eminent behavioral scientists in the world. And she herself, full-time, is a behavioral scientist. And when she first came aboard with the show, she's an old friend of mine, like from a million years ago. She knew me when I was doing this stuff back in the 70s. It was she was very skeptical about it, but as she has come to learn, I think that she's become more open-minded and realizing that scientists don't talk to each other enough, that there are interdisciplinary factors in these fields that really need to be addressed and that really need to be boned up on by scientists in fields that may be related. How is behavioral science related? Well, she's very useful when we deal with witnesses in cases where we have, what's the background of the person, what's going on in their life when they're seeing this. I mean, that's very helpful. Also, in bringing some discipline to the data gathering that we try and do now in these flap areas. I mean, we've been working on the case in Connecticut for 15 years. And we're still going through police reports and all kinds of other things because there are public changes in behavior, at least what appear to be. There was military activity. So you have to bring all kinds of things together. And science is an important part of that, and scientific methods as well. But the actual scientific method, experiment, theory, and then law later, is that good enough? Is this outside of that kind of science? Is the materialism that it assumes any good when it comes to getting to the bottom of the paranormal? So these are all things that I think will be addressed as we move forward. And I think it's all good. The more questions we ask and the more answers we seek, I think the better off we'll be.
Well, and that's the big thing that we need to look out for. We need to all come together on terms and try and figure out how we could do it together, how we could work together. This whole paranormal unity thing, which I think is a farce, but, that's for another discussion at another time. Yeah. Greco is asking, can you explain the paranormal? I already asked that, man. Can you explain the paranormal without religion? We just got into that, man. You can't put that question in there
you can explain anything. You can explain anything without religion. You can explain anything with a religion.
I mean, imagine all the people living life, John Lennon there. Anyways, moving on here, as we only got about 9.5 minutes left with you as this moves forward. When you look at 2020 and you look at everything that has happened, the last couple of years have really been the year of the UFO and really separating the term UAP or UFO from alien. Do you see the year of the UFO kind of coming to an end and something else taking over, whether it's Bigfoot, Dogman, Paranormal coming back into popularity, or do you see this continuing because the government is involved and the government has spoken about this even though they've only given us tidbits?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that the year of the UFO may turn into the decade of the UFO, and I don't know if that's necessarily good. I'm often on panels, Ben and I both, at conferences, and the question of disclosure comes up. You know, the government sort of spilling the beans and everything it knows. And various colleagues will speak learnedly about how, yes, disclosure is coming. They're not going to be able to help it. But they'll get to me, and I'll say, show of hands, who here believes what the government says? And everybody kind of groans, you know. I think to expect disclosure from the government is naive. I think people, and you know, having been in the military, I mean, I can tell you that certainly there is no government. I mean, there is as a monolith. There are various agencies, all of which, half of which don't know what the other ones are doing, and all of whom are concerned about their turf. And that's true within the military services, too. I know it's true in this country, and it's true in Canada as well. And because they all work together, and it can be a circus. So I don't expect any information that, if it is released, to be either accurate or complete. And there will be somebody's agenda in there somewhere. So I'm not optimistic about disclosure. However, I am optimistic about people's continued interest in UFOs. The Navy films that were released, I found were very interesting. However, and I'd like to know how much the Italian company that makes Tic Tacs paid them to keep referring to it as a Tic Tac UFO. I think that's cute. However, I should say that in our last few minutes here, last May, in the dear old Pennsylvania Triangle, like mere yards from where, or meters, I should say, in your parlance, from where I had my Bigfoot experience in 2016, Shane Searway, Chuck Credo, Alexander Petikoff, and myself, plus the owners of the home, who were so gracious when we come down to put us up to research that area, had the UFO experience of a lifetime. We happened to see, and I got the whole thing on video, a craft, it looked like a craft, hovering above sort of this moving cloud that looked like something not so, I don't know, it was just like a scientist's conception of a white hole. Everybody's sort of black holes, that suck things in, but there are white holes supposedly that spew material out, presumably from parallel universes. So they're moving through the sky. We got almost 3 minutes of it on video, and MUFON tells us it is at least Mark D'Antonio from MUFON, who was supposed to be there with us but couldn't make it, kicking himself, said that it's the best, one of the two best UFO videos that he had ever seen. And he's a killjoy when it comes to this stuff, if you know him. And excuse me, if people want to see that, they can go to there's a link to it on the Behind the Paranormal website in the archives. There's a video that's on the website of our radio station, and the May 26th, 2019 show, it was the video of it. We did a 2-hour special on location, and you can see the video in the first 15 minutes if people want to see that. But that's not the last that you've heard of that video. So I think the UFO fascination is going to continue, and I hope it's not used against us somehow.
All right, Star is asking, what's your thoughts then about the Space Force? Just another military branch, or do you think they're hiding something fun?
Well, I love how that's put. Well, first of all, a lot of people in this country, this Space Force, kind of dumb thing is that, but there are U.S. And Canada and a lot of other countries have billions and billions of dollars worth of assets there, and it really isn't protected as adequately as it should be. Now, I can't see, Starship zooming about fighting the Klingons, but I can see what Trump is trying to do here, bringing together existing areas of say, like the North American Aerospace Defense Command, and the Air Force in this country has an aerospace component as well, bringing together existing parts of this. Now, you'll notice that it's not a separate service, at least as it's been explained to me. It's part of the Air Force. So really, it's just giving a name to a bunch of things that already exist, but bringing them under one umbrella. I was in the U.S. Coast Guard which is a separate service, but it's during wartime, it's part of the U.S. Navy. And the Marine Corps is part of the U.S. Navy. So you got a lot of redundancy here with the Navy, with its own Army and Air Force. Canada doesn't have that. It's nice and simple, although they've gone back to 3 services. But in any case, I think that we've got, I think it's a good idea. And it's countering the moves of other. I think the only secrets involved would be what other nations are doing in space. Whether there are bases on the moon or a secret space program, Vandenberg Air Force Base, you've got launch sites, things of that kind. Yeah, they very, very, very well may be. I don't know for sure, but I think that there may be something to it. But the Space Force itself seems to be a very practical and sensible step to take as we move deeper into the 21st century.
Do you think they are hiding a secret space program, or this could be, the signs that we get some information out of that?
Well, the thing is, when people would say, well, the moon voyages were fake and all this, well, the people who would love to have said that would be the Soviets, but they acknowledged that they tracked the various Apollo craft to the moon and back. Now, unless they're in on it. But I mean, I've never been a conspiracy theorist, but in a way, I think I'm getting there. So there may be there are all sorts of things that are going on that we don't know about. I think the public knows about 10% of what's going on. And I had a clearance. It wasn't very high, but you have a security clearance. It's core mission and need to know only. So it's not like if you have a clearance, you know everything. Of course not. It's specific to a certain time and place and whatever you happen to be working on. Excuse me. So I think that I'll be just as surprised as anyone else when things are revealed. We do hear things. We have our contacts with the intelligence community exist, but they're primarily about certain addresses where we think funny things are going on with regard to flap areas, certain, locate farms and things of this kind where there seems to be suspicious activity, excavation, things of that kind. So we don't really get into any kind of secret space program as far as that level is concerned.
We've only got about 2 minutes left with you tonight, and this is a show that has flown on by. I'm going to ask you this before we let you go. In your 40-plus years of investigating, what haven't you seen or experienced that, before you decide to call it quits, that you would like to experience?
Well, I have almost run into fairies. Okay. I think I'd like to run into that. Literally, this was a family in Puerto Rico in 1984 who insisted, and they were both professional people, that the fairies cleaned their house every Saturday morning. And it's quite the story, maybe for some other time. But I think that again, a label that we can understand that may reflect a deeper reality. I would like to experience time travel. I've come close to, I think, the parallel world experience on many occasions. And that sort of thing. But there's always something new to experience, and I think it can always be experienced in a positive way, depending on what you bring to it. But I do not want romance with Bigfoot.
No, I don't blame you on that one. Out-of-body experiences, NDEs, you want any of that?
I don't know. I'd like to experience pretty much everything, but I know people who've had terrible NDEs, very frightening ones. One of the terms we invented was the flashing nexus. That's for another time, maybe too, but it's experiencing many different lives in rapid succession. That does occur. I think that might be interesting. So,
well, Paul, I'm going to have to unfortunately say goodnight to you tonight because we have hit that time of the night where we do have to start to move on to our news section and everything like that. What a pleasure it was to talk to you. Last time you were on with Tim Beckley, and that was a couple of years ago. And the fact that you came back on this show to do this and hang out with us and our audience, that's really, really cool, man. Thank you so much, and good luck with your continued success with Ben and whatever you are investigating, my friend.
Thank you, Dave. The pleasure was mine.
Absolutely. Coming up next, we have the SOR Newswire, the Thought of the Dave, and then, of course, once the radio side ends, we're going to go live on YouTube for our Friday night Ask Me Anything. Old Davey opens up to all of you, so if you're in the YouTube chat, stay tuned. If you're on the radio side, you can move on over. That's quite all right. We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio right after this.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Hey, Spaced Out Radio fans! It's John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those with rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from vans to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a Space Traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Need that weekend supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate all of you out there tuning us on in. Reminder that if you've missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Speaking of the news, let's get to it, shall we? The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire, the back end of every show where we get to the weird, the wacky, and the sometimes solemn. Retired NASA astronaut and engineer Al Warren died back on March 18th at the age of 88. Warren served as the command module pilot of Apollo 15, the first lunar mission to carry scientific instruments in the command module, while orbiting the moon alone, farther from the other people than anyone has ever been. Warren mapped out a quarter of the lunar surface, measured the composition of lunar rocks from space, picked out a landing site for the final Apollo mission, and launched a miniature satellite into lunar orbit to study the moon's gravity and magnetic field. He said, "As I was growing up, aviation was not really something that I was foremost in my mind. Instead, two things were the foremost in a young Warden's mind: the work of running his family's small Michigan farm and finding a career that would take him somewhere else. An appointment to the U.S. Military Academy at West Point was his ticket off the farm. Warden was determined to become an Army officer and lead troops into battle. By his senior year at West Point, he still hadn't given any thought about flying, but two instructors in his senior year convinced Warden to take his commission in the U.S. Air Force instead of the Army. Not because I wanted to fly," he said, "but because I thought the promotions would be quicker there. I decided to give flying a chance. I never really had any interest in it up until then." Warden turned out to be pretty good at at flying. Despite his initial lack of interest, he became a fighter pilot and then a test pilot instructor, but he always saw flight as a means to an end. I'm not a pilot because I just love to go burning holes in the sky, Worden said. That's pointless to me, he explained. I think being a pilot means it gives you the opportunity to go someplace and come back. An airplane is a transport. You do something when you get there, and then you come back. God bless him. NASA's InSight lander, which is currently on the surface of Mars, has faced some unexpected problems during its mission to explore and study the planet. No, it's not COVID-19. Namely, a digging probe that was built to burrow beneath the surface like a jackhammer got stuck because Mars's soil is clumpier than scientists expected. After a few failed attempts to get it out, NASA had to get a bit creative. Ultimately, it freed the probe by giving it a solid thwack with InSight's shovel. NASA expected its probe to be dubbed the Mole to dig its way through sand-like terrain. But because the Martian soil clumped together, the whole apparatus got stuck in place. Programming InSight's robotic arm to land down on the Mole was a risky last resort maneuver, because it risked damage to fragile parts and communication lines that were attached nearby. Thankfully, engineers spent a few months practicing in simulations before they made a real attempt. With tentative results that the Mole is working again, NASA hopes again to task it with burrowing beneath the surface of Mars. General Motors, Ford, and Tesla say they are prepared to help manufacture ventilators as the U.S. faces a critical shortage amid the coronavirus outbreak. The automakers responded to the call despite announcing that their plants were being closed due to workers concerned about exposure to the deadly virus. Fiat Chrysler and its sibling Ferrari are also in talks with the nation's biggest ventilator manufacturer to help boost production of the life-saving machines that are urgently needed in the coronavirus crisis. Company officials have said the effort was underway to lend support to Italy, the epicenter of the pandemic, and where its government has embarked on a big expansion of the number of intensive care beds, many of which will require ventilators to keep patients alive by taking over breathing functions. It's not clear if Fiat Chrysler would extend its support in the U.S. A spokesman for Fiat Chrysler was not immediately available for comment. The coronavirus has been confirmed in 14,306 cases and blamed in 211 deaths in the United States so far. GM Chief Executive Mary Barra says she spoke to White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow about the issue after the Detroit automaker announced it would suspend North American production through March 30th. Kudlow said that... Really? Oh, pardon me. Kudlow said that he had spoken to one automaker looking at producing ventilators. GM spokeswoman Janine Ginnivan has said the automaker is working to help find solutions for the nation during this difficult time and has offered help, and we are already studying on how we can potentially support production of medical equipment like ventilators. Ford, by the way, says it stands by and stands ready to help the administration in any way they can, including the possibility of producing ventilators and other equipment. They say we have the preliminary discussions with the U.S. government and are looking into the feasibility. Meanwhile, Tesla's Elon Musk has offered to help produce more ventilators if the U.S. runs out. The CEO of SpaceX said to his Twitter followers, if there is a shortage, he would step in to make ventilators so patients in intensive care can breathe as their bodies battle against the illness. We will make ventilators if there's a shortage, he says. This is despite Tesla's California Fremont factory facing imminent closure as part of an industry-wide shutdown to allow workers into isolation. Don't worry, San Francisco. Your hippie lettuce is safe. One company rushed to expand its delivery fleet. Another has seen sales triple. The global coronavirus pandemic has left millions of people locked out of bars, restaurants, and theaters, but it's been an unexpected boost for the marijuana shops. Yeah, pot users in the nation's largest legal pot shop, California, and elsewhere are buying on a binge as they stock up for potential quarantines or simply light up in search of relief during anxious times and government lockdowns. New York, San Francisco, and Palm Springs, California are among the cities labeling dispensaries as essential businesses that can remain open during the virus lockdowns, in some cases with limitations. Sales increases are also being witnessed in Colorado and Washington, according to cannabis data company Headset. Dispensaries, meanwhile, have been quick to accommodate virus-wary customers, boosting delivery and pickup options. In California, the online delivery marketplace Ease said order volume jumped 38% on Monday compared to its annual average, and deliveries overall saw an identical jump. Deliveries to the first-time customers, though, spiked 50%. Wow. That's a lot of pot. Glass House Group CEO Kyle Kazan bought several Priuses. Oh, yeah. Why buy a Prius? Oh. Bought the ugliest car on the market to put more delivery vehicles on the road to keep up with demand, with many consumers reluctant to go out for fear of getting sick, practicing social distancing, or being ordered to stay inside by government. We are going to have to bring the store to them, said Kazan, whose company includes a cultivation arm and 4 California dispensaries. It's not much different than the Amazon, he said. At the Herbery, which operates 2 stores in Vancouver, Washington, sales have spiked about 30% since last Friday, when Governor Jay Inslee announced widespread school closures and other measures to deal with the outbreak. Oh, yes. Yes, it's a sign of the times. A woman accused of stealing a taxi in Scottsdale, Arizona, and then biting an off-duty Maricopa County Sheriff's deputy on the arm after she was arrested. Yeah. Police say Sierra Letitia Enns is now facing charges. A good Mennonite girl like doing that? Come on. Yeah, well, she's facing charges of vehicle theft, resisting arrest, and aggravated assault in the late-night March 14th incident. Police say the cab driver was standing outside his vehicle when Enns reportedly jumped into the taxi and drove off. The driver alerted 2 off-duty MCSO deputies as he ran after his cab. Enns crashed the cab nearby and was detained by deputies until police arrived on the scene. The woman reportedly fought with the 2 deputies as they were placing her in a patrol car, and she bit one of the officers. Yeah, reports say that court records show Enns had an extreme DUI conviction in 2017, along with multiple aggravated assaults on officers. It's unclear Thursday if Enns has a lawyer. Customers cheered at a Walmart in Missouri after a woman gave birth to a baby girl in the store's toilet paper aisle. Jessica Hinkle, manager of the store in Springfield, said the woman told employees Wednesday that her water had broke. Hinkle held up a sheet for privacy while a labor nurse who happened to be in the store and firefighters helped the woman deliver her baby in just 45 minutes. Customers encouraged the woman throughout the birth and cheered as she and the baby were taken away by ambulance. The birth took place as shoppers nationwide are converging on stores to stockpile toilet paper and other basics amid the coronavirus pandemic. You know, a feel-good moment. Everybody's going through so much with a baby. It is like everything comes full circle, Hinkle said. Hinkle said she contacted the woman Thursday and both mom and baby are doing well. The woman's name was not released. I'm not like the best with blood, so that was my job, holding the sheet and the crowd control, making sure that nobody invaded what privacy the poor lady still had, she said. At least they are healthy. An Australian snake catcher called out to relocate a female tiger snake from a resident's yard, said the serpent gave birth in its car, and one of the babies had 2 heads. Stuart Gatt, a.k.a. Stewie the snake catcher, said he was called out to relocate a female tiger snake from a yard in Ardere, Victoria. Gatt said he captured the snake in a bag and loaded it into his car, but when he opened the bag, a little while later, he discovered the reptile had given birth to several babies, including one with 2 heads. The catcher took the snakes to the direct vet services in Point Cook. As cool as it was, these animals are generally not viable, so it was euthanized on humane grounds. The rest of the babies were found to be healthy and were released back into the wild alongside their mother. And I can't believe Captain Shirk didn't put this story in. I really can't. I had to find this one on my own. Captain, how do you miss this story? This case takes the term for save the bacon to a whole new level. Over in the UK, firefighters were called to battle a blaze at a farm near Bramham, West Yorkshire in Leeds, sparked by a pig who had just defecated. What? As Captain Shirk would say, what? The fire service said the crews found 4 pig pens engulfed in flames on Saturday afternoon when they arrived at the farm. Apparently, one of the pigs had eaten a battery-operated pedometer, which later blew up after the pig took a dump. You can't make this stuff up. This is beautiful news. Firefighters believe the copper from the pedometer's batteries negatively reacted with the pig poo-poos and dry hay, causing a fire to start. Should be an oink, not a tweet, North Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service stated on Twitter. A hose reel was used to extinguish the fire and save the bacon. The fire, which firefighters joked was caused by a free-range pig, burned about 75 square meters worth of hay. No humans or animals were harmed in the fire. How do you miss that one, Shirk? Old Shirky Poo, how do you miss that? Where's my clown, Marty? Is there a clown today? Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask for a question on Facebook and Twitter. And then we read your responses on the air because, well, we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. Love Cuterebra. What would you rather be doing today, and why? Goddess Michelle. It's a two-parter here. A two-tweeter, I should say. She goes, I would rather be ... Nope, today I feel good about my work. I would rather go there and do all the crap I did than come home and talk to all you guys on Twitter. Well, that was a snarky shot. Happy with this? FYI, quite a few don't know anything about COVID-19. I should correct that last statement, she says in tweet number 2. Quite a few of the elderly don't know about the virus or that they are in quarantine. It's kind of nice having things go business as usual. You know, we got to give a round of applause for Goddess Michelle on Twitter. She's actually a nurse. She's on the front lines of this, and she's doing a hell of a job. We love you, Goddess Michelle, and to all the people in the medical field who are trying to help and put their own lives at stake through all of this. So thank you so much for doing what you do. You are one of the heroes out there. Let's see. Canadian Joe. I don't really understand this tweet. There's a lady sitting on the couch, and he says, I'd rather be hanging out with this every day. I don't even think he knows the lady. I don't think he does. Jen, I'd rather be riding my bike on some beautiful mountain trails while camping in the summer, and that COVID-19 never existed. Cajun Medicine Man says, I'd rather be hiking in the woods, reconnecting. John, what should I be doing? How about swimming with whales? Why? Because it looks way too much fun. It's amazing. You know, you look at pictures of people swimming in the water near like whales or like whale sharks and how small the person looks. Oh, yeah. How small. All right, let's go over to Facebook, shall we? Bobby. As juvenile as it sounds, I'd rather be playing an MMORPG. I have no idea what that is. Game right now because it is a way to socially interact without being physically present. See, I play the Wolf game online. Wolf Simulator. Yeah, if you can figure me out on there, come say hi. By the way, my wolf is like a level 40. I'm building it up. You can only go to 50 levels, and I'm at a 40 right now. My son and I play all the time. Joel's got fantastic hair, very high and tight. He goes, I would rather be brushing your beautiful hair, Dave. I don't blame you, Joel. I had a good brushing today. Sparkles, I would like to be at the gym. It is closed, however. I stopped going several weeks ago. My gym is a very well-run facility, and people and staff are very nice. I always leave feeling extra happy. Ross, I'd rather be home and not stuck in Las Vegas. Oh, let's trade spots. Not right now, though. No, not with the city shut down. But hold on. I got friends there. Yeah, we could trade spots. I'll trade you. You come host the show, Rose. Pardon me, not Ross. Rose, you come host the show. I'll go to Vegas. I'll be stuck for you. And I'll hang out at my cousin's pool because he says he has lots of beer and lots of food. So that's where I'll go. Chuck, I'd like to be back in the classroom teaching students. Nick, sitting at home drawing cartoons and writing notes for RPGs, it's so dead at work, and I even forgot to bring my book to read. Now all I could do is argue online. Stephanie, I'd rather be fishing because it's my happy place. Cameron, nothing. I'm serving people today, and it's right. Gives me peace. Come join me. Park, I'd rather be golfing with Norm Macdonald today. Then we will find out they're closed because of the flu. So we watch Battlefield Earth instead, the worst, best movie of all time. And Norm does all the dialogue for John Travolta, and I would do the same for Forrest Whitaker. That would be a great day. Whiskey, cheers. Olaf, road tripping because I am bored. Kelly, listening to SOR and the hashtag Make Day Laugh crew, giving it their best run. William, spending hour after hour after hour inside the hallowed halls of the research center within the UFO Museum at Roswell. Gabe, I'm doing it, brother, but I am sure I could be doing better things, but life's not that good to me. Captain Shirk, nothing. I'm doing what I love, and I am happy, content, and at peace. It's wonderful. Carrie Lynn, eating an amazing meal on a lake in the sun. Nikki gets the final word. Nope, nada. For me, that would be exactly what I was doing today, an entire day of psychic work. Thank you to everybody participating in the Thought of the Dave. We'll do it all again on Monday. And to Captain Shirk for wonderful news, even though she missed the pig story. Bad captain. Bad captain. And what else? What else? Oh, yeah. To Paul and Ben Eno for coming on in, sharing some great stories tonight. Hanging on out, having a good time. We really do appreciate that. That was a lot of fun this week. Good week. Remember, right after we sign off, we're going live on YouTube, so you can hang out with us there for the AMA Ask Me Anything portion of the after party. YouTube.com/Spaced Out Radio. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody this week listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Special thanks to everybody participating in our chat rooms on LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, YouTube, Facebook, the SOR Space Travelers on our website, and all the snarkers and snarkettes on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for making this so much fun, because together, my friends, we own the night, Mr. Bumblefoot. We need a favor. We need you to take us home. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you on the other side. And enjoy your time. Stay safe. Good night.